Yeah, I think comic books are a rite of passage.
It's an artistic expression. It's a political expression. To me, it's as valid a form of art or expression of art as what you would see at the City Museum or the Contemporary Museum.
Comics are such a, or at least can be such an honest form of expression that people really, the author can really put a lot of themselves into it, whether it's their personality or their beliefs or their sense of humor.
Yeah, comic books are an escape.
Do you think comics are can be a work of art?
Yeah, I think comics can be a work of art. Hi, my name's Andrew Stuckmeyer, and I am a former comic book reader.
My name's Mike. I'm the manager here at the Afton Fantasy Shop. I've worked for the company for the past 3 years.
Kid's parents, like his dad or something, read comic books when he was younger. I'm sure he'd introduce his son to his favorite, comic book character or whatever,
When I was a kid, my dad got me a subscription to Sergeant Rock, which was a World War II comic put out by DC. And I read that and, a little bit of like Batman, stuff like that. And didn't really mess with it again until college. And, I wasn't like a comic book collector growing up as a kid or anything.
I'd be at my grandparents' house, and I'd be bored out of my mind, and they'd realize that I was bored out of my mind, and they'd slip me the funniest section of the newspaper while watching golf or whatever.
I'm Ben Trujillo, and I'm the owner of Starclipper, co-owner with my wife, Asia. Well, believe it or not, I am a Georgetown Law School trained tax lawyer. And then as I got involved in the comic scene, I started enjoying it so much, I actually quit being a lawyer. And
eventually I got into, like, Judge Dredd. I read some DC comics, like Superman and all that, but could always, hide Judge Dredd in a drawer someplace, and a lot like porn, I guess.
I really like Japanese manga, especially samurai manga. I'm a huge fan of Lone Wolf and Cub, Samurai Executioner, Blade of the Immortal, those types of titles. So I have a pretty narrow focus, although growing up as a kid I loved Asterix and Obelix.
He was the judge, the jury, and the executioner. I didn't really like X-Men. I'd read it to, I guess, to fit in, but eventually I got away from X-Men. I got into slightly more graphic comic books, I guess.
Reading it was like reading a movie or reading an illustrated novel. It wasn't like reading, about some guy in spandex swinging around off of buildings.
Broadening people's horizons and letting them understand that there's a lot more to the comics industry than just the superhero mainstream.
Perception out there that, comics are pretty much only superhero and what we call the spandex set, but really there's comics out there about everything from, relationships breaking up to, weird metaphysical stuff, everything.
Well, I'm sure there are people that enjoy comic books still, but I think that, it's just something society has decided, and I don't know, I guess I'm indoctrinated. So, that, you should, I don't know, that reading comic books is, something for childhood,
Well, because they were always marketed to children, because the story behind them can seem juvenile. Certainly with a lot of the superhero comics, the characterization of women is misogynistic.
At 35 years old with a wife and kids still goes out and buys the same books that they bought when they were a little kid. That behavior it's a lot more mainstream now than it was. People are a lot more aware of it, and with that awareness ultimately always comes acceptance of it. So I think it's less geeky now to be, a comic book nerd or whatever, but
a little bit immature maybe. I'm going to make a lot of people hate me for saying that, but it's just, unfortunately there is a part of the culture that does fit that stereotype. And you see the comic guy on The Simpsons. There are a lot of comic shop owners who are just like that guy, so.
Thank you, Simpsons. Yeah. No, I didn't always think that. What do I think about him? Young at heart, more props to him. That part of me died.
as far as, you know, the economic end of things, I don't know that more people are reading comic books than were before. Or
In fact, what we used to call alternative, we now shelf with our mainstream superhero comics because they've become so broad-based now.
One of the big things that we've seen over the past decade is, you know, it's sort of become a universal truth that comics really are not geared towards you know, kids like people have thought. It's a medium that's grown with its audience.
So titles that you would never have expected to be shelved next to a superhero, you'll find them there. They'll like Kevin Huizenga's work, or Matt Kent, who's right back there right now. He's an Eisner nominee who's here signing books. Oh, graphic novels is the direction everything's going. Single issue comics, sales-wise, continue to decline. People are waiting longer and longer to buy trade paperbacks. In fact, the only place that I'm seeing an increase in single issue comic sales is in the alternative small press comics.
Not so much. I mean, I've got a couple of friends who write web comics, and they're decent, but I'd still rather see it in print.
Okay.
Absolutely. We'll take a comic from just about anyone. We have a great selling comic called Mad Battle. It's done by a 12-year-old girl. People love it.
Yeah, I've looked at a few manga, like the Berserk manga. And I've seen the Hellsing manga, but I haven't actually read it.
As a culture, I really like the Japanese. I think it's a really amazing country with a terrific history. So I like some of the older manga that delves into the Japanese history.
There's artists working in the comic field that are painters, you know, graphic, computer illustrators, things like that.
I mean, people are coming in who heard about that on NPR and want to see that, whereas, you know, they go and see Hellblazer and we have a slight push-up in the number of trades we sell for Hellblazer, but that's it. Really, the only exception I would say to what I said was Sin City.
You know, I mean, there's a reason that guys from comics are now working in Hollywood a lot, doing storyboarding, and
the interest in Sin City has been terrific, and I think the reason for that is that was a movie that was done in a comic theme. I mean, when you see that movie, it's like you're reading a comic.
You know, to me, a really well-illustrated comic still looks cooler than, you know, wire fu or, you know, CGI in movies, because it just doesn't look believable. But when you're looking at you know, visual storytelling like what comics provide, you're so taken in by the quality of the artwork and the skill of the artist that you sort of suspend that disbelief. And when you're reading a comic,
It's like, you know, we make our own reality, I guess.
People come in and they're amazed to find out it's a comic story. And that's when you have the opportunity to show them that there's much more to the genre than what they have always thought there was, because of what they read when they were kids, or just because what they've heard from their friends or what they see on TV.
Philosophy, I mean, everything's right here. It's just, well, I mean, I mean, I'm sure if you think deep into the storyline, I mean, there's a lot of metaphors there. There's a lot of symbolism, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can gain some deeper insight into the workings of life by reading comics.
I'll definitely be keeping up on the reading, and it's certainly an interest I'll always have.
Comics, and they understand that it's a real art form.
Comics are such a, or at least can be such an honest form of expression that you know, people really, the author can really put a lot of themselves into it, whether it's their personality or their beliefs or their sense of humor.
Webcomics, I think that you read a lot of webcomics. You make me read a lot of webcomics. But I enjoy them.
What do you enjoy?
Are movies a form of art? Well, sure. You know, that doesn't mean that Speed 2 was a masterpiece or anything, but